Thank you, Johnny. Yes, I just want to invite our three pastors we're very thankful to them for doing this for us today. So, Ian Grant from Armagh, Richard McCord from Dundonald, and Gareth Bell, if you'd like to come to the front. Gareth's from Carrick. If you come up and we'll grab a wee mic here. Just as they're coming up, we're so thankful that they're here to talk about this topic. We're going to have a little discussion from the floor after this, so hopefully the questions that we ask will provoke some thoughts for you as well. And as they share their experiences, it'll be very useful for us too. Now, we won't be long. As we said, it'll be 10 minutes for two reasons. Number one, we want to get home. And number two, if you've noticed, our principal's still lounging on his bar stool up against the piano with a mic in hand. So I'm hoping he'll sing us a wee number before we go home as well. So I want to leave time for that as well. So come on over, guys, and grab one of these mics here. Basically with three questions, and each member will take the lead in one of the questions, and then the other guys will fill in after that. So the first question is really for Richard to take the lead on. Okay, so Richard, your question's this. We really understand that pastoral life is very busy and demanding, so why do you think it's still worth taking the time to look out for and invest in future leaders? And what keeps you motivated in that priority?
Yeah, thank you, Davey. I've been involved in training up pastors from several angles, you could say. I myself have been an assistant in Leamington Spa in England for a couple of years. I've been involved in the training of a young man who was in our church already. That's Chris Banks, who's now the pastor in Malile Baptist. I've been involved in the training of a college graduate who came along to our church in Dundonald, and that's Tim Houston, who's now the assistant pastor in Bethany Baptist. Both of those were giveaway assistant pastors. In other words, we didn't intend to keep them. It was a 2-year program, and there was a cliff edge, as it were. That was difficult, but it wasn't that we wanted to keep the assistant on for good. And then I'm currently involved in training of a college student on placement with us from the Irish Baptist College, Sam Thompson. But I'm by no means an expert at all, but I have always believed in the importance of training up the next generation. Psalm 145 verse 4 says, "One generation shall commend your works to another and shall declare your mighty acts." So in the church and indeed in the Lord's work, we're always in a relay, and Johnny just mentioned that already. We pass on the baton. We've received the baton and we're going to pass it on. We pass the torch on to someone else. Now, I am a pastor, but I'm not just speaking to pastors. I'm speaking to all of us. But pastors are busy, and you know that. But I'm not here to add on to another of your list of to-do and make you feel guilty as pastors. That's not what I want to do, or to think of it like that. But it doesn't mean that we don't have to prioritize and make the best use of the time that we do have. What is a pastor? There's a question. What is a pastor? I can give you a list of answers people give. A preacher extraordinaire, that's not me. A first among equals, a strong leader, a manager, a CEO, a man of the people, an events planner for funerals, a counsellor, a listening ear, a man for the crisis, a volunteer coordinator, a visitor of the sick and the frail, a births, marriages, and deaths only man. That's 15 answers, but not one of them. Nobody says this. Nobody says that he is someone who seeks to train up the next pastor or elder or church leaders. Nobody says that. There are many views on what a pastor is. Everyone's got their own view, what they think is important. We cannot be all of them. We should not be all of them, but everyone has 168 hours in the week, every single one of us. Something has to give. So what place does the replacement of ourselves, I speak towards pastors in particular in my thoughts here, have? What place does seeking out and training up our replacements in the next generation have? I mean, I want to argue that it belongs far up the list of priorities. We cannot leave it to someone else. We cannot expect the man or men who will preach and pastor in place of us to be someone else's problem, or just to parachute in from somewhere. I once wrote an article for the Insight magazine, which I used to serve on, and it was something like, "Pastors are not parachutists," or something like that. It was the title of it. We can't expect them to just appear. We must seek to replace ourselves. I have said to our elders several times not to be retiring or resigning until someone else is there to take your place. The same principle applies to me. Maybe not the exact man, but at least the men in general who could be, I would argue. For those who are not pastors, members and deacons and elders here, There's a need to support the pastor and the elders, to be about the work of identification and training up the next generation. Sometimes we get lost in the woods of being a pastor and pastoral ministry. But when that happens, I try to think of the big picture. By God's grace, we must replace ourselves, and working together, we can do that much better.
Okay, thank you very much. Ian, have anything to add there at this stage? Or you don't have to now, but you go on.
Very, very quickly. I was at
wee mic there.
a funeral, 2 funerals in Hamilton Road not that long ago. Both of retired pastors, Sam Carson and Jim Byers. And both men are on record as saying later in their ministry, the most important thing they did during their pastoral career was to train up young men in preaching and teaching God's word, and they gave themselves to that, often on a Sunday night after a long busy day, but they said it was the best thing they ever did.
Gareth?
Yeah, I mean, one of the key motivators for me in raising up leaders is the time and effort that my own pastor put into me, and how instrumental that was in leading me into ministry, and just remembering that and wanting to be a part of that, but also recognising I'm limited. I've been in ministry 13 years, and it's went like that in a blink, and the next 13 years will be the same, and so one of the most valuable contributions I can make is raising up the next generation of leaders.
Thank you. So our next question, and Ian, you're going to take the lead in this for us, if that's okay. So in your experience, what kinds of qualities or gifts have made you think someone might have potential for pastoral or missionary ministry? And following on from that, how do you usually recognise those signs early on? And once you do, what are some practical ways you can help them grow and develop within the church? Nice short question.
I'll keep it as short as I can. First of all, I believe it's the role of the whole congregation to recognise and foster gifts and abilities that the Lord has placed within people in our churches, not just mine, nor even the elders. It's the whole congregation that should recognise gift. First of all, it's important to have a culture of discipleship. When I went to Armagh, I was coming in with a renewed emphasis on the importance of discipleship after a time serving with SIM. But when I got there, I discovered that, particularly within the youth departments at the time, that culture of intentional discipleship was already there. We had 2 youth leaders at the time, Alan Abram and Johnny Thompson. Johnny's here this morning. One's an elder in Armagh now, and the other is an elder in Katy now. They were youth leaders at that time. And as well as running our Friday night youth programme called Thrive, they and their wives also ran SALT groups for teenage boys and another one for teenage girls. And SALT stood for Saved and Learning Together. And they made their way through a book about discipleship over the course of a couple of years. And they really brought our young people on, not only in terms of discipleship, but also in terms of getting involved in church life, usually helping in our children's meetings or praise teams or in the technical team. And it was there in our children's and youth activities that gift was encouraged. And people such as Phil Martin, Aaron Riddle, James Robinson, Andrew Gray, they all first cut their teeth in upfront ministry in those children's and youth activities, and it's been a joy to watch each of those guys develop since in other places. And then leadership training, culture discipleship, leadership training. When I first went to Armagh on one Saturday morning each month, I got together a group of men of all ages to go through Gospel-Centred Church, a book by Steve Timmis and Tim Chester, for a couple of years. And from that group we gained a number of good elders and deacons. And something that was said earlier, that doesn't just happen. You have to be intentional about developing leaders in your church. And then once those couple of years had gone by, we focused in on training preachers after that, and we started a preachers group. Leadership training is one thing, encouraging preaching gift is another. So after those first few years, I started an ABC preachers group, which usually meets on the first Sunday night of each month after the evening service. That's what I mean, after a long, busy day. It's the one thing you could sometimes let slip. But over the years, we've gone through quite a number of books on preaching. For example, The Archer and the Arrow from Australia, Expositional Preaching from 9 Marks in America, and we're now going through Dig Deeper by Nigel Bennon and Andrew Sack from England. We've also looked at doctrine, for example, using the book Know the Truth by Bruce Milne. And as well as that, each summer our pastors take a break from speaking at our midweek Bible studies, and each of the folks in the preachers group make their way through a Bible book for 8 or 9 Wednesday nights in July and August. They spoke one summer on a selection of Psalms. They made their way through 2 Timothy on another summer. And last summer, they even tackled an overview of each of the minor prophets, which I thought would be a daunting task, but I have to say they actually did it really well. Our church learned from the experience, books that they'd never opened before, and each of the men benefited from their study too. And then we get together in the preachers group in September. We take time to reflect on how that has gone and gently critique each other. So it's in all of those ways that we seek to encourage preaching gift in men from our church. Some will go on to train at IBC, and I was just totting up in my head last night, I think it's something like 9 people that we've sent to the Irish Baptist College in the last 16 years. Some will go on into pastoral ministry afterwards, but some will simply become more effective in various ministries within our own local church in Armagh, and that has certainly been the case, and we praise God for it.
Thank you very much, Ian. Richard, have you anything to add there?
Well, just briefly, I mean, it's risky to let people cut their teeth. You don't know what you're going to get sometimes, but it's worth it. And you have to just accept that, and your members and your congregation will accept that if that's what you're doing. You're trying to equip for the future.
Yeah, I mean, that culture of being willing to embrace young people who are cutting their teeth and ensuring that they have that teachability to be able to have a bit of feedback is vital, really.
Okay, that's great, thank you. And if Ian, if you could send us 9 more, that would help the budget greatly. So thank you, that'd be wonderful. So our final question, Gareth's going to take the lead in that. So how have you found, Gareth, partnership between your church and the Irish Baptist College helpful when it comes to preparing people for ministry? And what would you say to other pastors or church leaders who are thinking about encouraging their members to take that step into gospel training?
Yeah, I think the key word there is partnership. As a local church, we want to disciple every believer to spiritual maturity in Christ. And as we do that, there's going to be certain individuals who feel God calling them into ministry, individuals who the elders recognise clear gifting in. And like has been shared already today, we will seek to draw alongside those individuals, mentor them, nurture them, their gift, give them opportunities to test their gift. But there's inevitably going to come a point when that person needs greater theological depth and more structured ministry formation, and that's where this partnership with the Irish Baptist College becomes invaluable. But it's a partnership. It's not a case of just handing that individual off to the college for them to do the training. We're working together in this, and so as that person is getting stretched theologically and prepared for ministry, they're still continuing in the church, their discipleship, getting hands-on opportunities to apply what they're learning in the college in those real-life ministry settings, through preaching, outreach, counselling, pastoral care, planning, administration, whatever it may be. And it's really that collaborative approach that enables individuals to be raised up that are both theologically grounded and practically equipped for gospel ministry. And I found that over the years in my own experience, just seeing that partnership developing as we have been discipling people in the local church, granting them opportunities, seeing them grow, being sent out to the college, and just that partnership working so well together. And so what I would say to people thinking about this is 2 things, really. One, never underestimate the power of a simple conversation. Drawing alongside someone, recognizing their gift and asking them the question, have they ever thought about ministry or leadership? It's amazing how God can use that simple conversation to redirect someone's life. I mean, I was mentioning my own pastor earlier, that's what happened with me. It was through those simple conversations that my life was sent in a direction that I never anticipated. And then secondly, I think that the fear in raising up leaders, particularly for ministry, gospel ministry elsewhere, is we view it as losing them. And there's a fear, how is this going to affect our church as we send them out? But I would encourage you to think of it more as an investment in the future kingdom work. Because as individuals are raised up, shaped, prepared and sent, Yes, you'll feel that in your local church, but think of the generations and people that are going to be impacted through their ministry, and that's exciting, and it's wonderful to be a part of that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gareth. Richard, just do you, and then Ian will
Yeah,
finish.
again, just briefly, I mean, I agree absolutely with what Gareth says, and that idea of giving away being difficult, I mean, that comes down to even the culture that's in your church in general. I mean, if you ever want to be a church planting church, you've got to learn to give away, and that's hard. And particularly if you're small and you think, well, this guy's it's going to be a big gap. I remember when we sent away our first assistant pastor, there was a big hole, but then God raised up others. And yeah, the idea that you want to give away for the good of all of the church and for investment in the future and for multiplication reasons and all that's a really good way to think about. I mean, you can even give away when someone moves house and goes to go to have a job somewhere else. You can bring them up to the front and give them away to another place. That kind of culture of being a giving away church is a good thing to think about. Thank you.
And Ian?
Yeah, just finally, that as well as giving students to the college, we have really benefited from 4 students that we took on for their student placement second year, which is a part-time thing, Sunday, Wednesday evening. And those 4 have all been real encouragement to our church. Paul McAdam, Luke Keys, Mark Rooney, Andrew Moorcroft, who's currently still with us. 2 of those guys we employed whenever they finished their courses. Paul, we took on for 4 years to plant Katie. It happened in 3, and he's there since, pastoring that church. And that was hard to give all those folks away to Katie and him in particular, but they're really been blessed by the Lord. And then Andrew Moorcroft has been taken on, and he's employed by us now, doing a great job with our young people. So the partnership works both ways. We give, but we also receive. So thanks for that.
Thank you. Thank you to these 3. I hope you've been encouraged by this morning, but also there's a lot of food for thought for each of our churches there, and I think it's okay. Show our appreciation. Give these men a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you.